Tunanam. Hey Tunanam is a plural term of hello to everybody in our language here. So I'm speaking the language of this land. So we have folks that are 4 generations here, and then myself that are probably up to 15, 20 generations, maybe more. So we always want to talk about, we always like to talk, let's talk timeline, let's start there. One of the first things that we all kind of recognize when we're here is that we want our future generations to experience love, some peace here, some health, some good health, and definitely some prosperity. And as a Machupta woman, I want that for my children just as much as you want that for your children and your grandchildren as well. So we come to these spaces to talk, but we also have realities, right? Life on life's terms. What has happened here? What happened in 1850s here in this land? We cannot avoid the fact that there has been a huge genocidal campaign against local natives, and the state helps support that. Spirits are here. Sorry about that. So this what happened also changed how we took care of the land. So when we look at the planet's history, it's 4.6 billion years old, the whole planet. I'm bringing some energy. Watch. I always do. When we're looking at the history of this planet, it's 4.6 billion years old. We look at the plants that live here, our volcanoes, the middle mountains, all of these landscapes that we look at, they were well developed before humans were even brought on this planet as a species. So humans have been on this planet as a species for 200,000 years ish, out of 4.6 billion years. Okay. So then we're going to look at the natives. We've been here, and they're going to give us credit for being here for maybe 75,000 years out of that 200, right? And then we have our local folks here that have been here for about 150 years tops. So we have this huge timeline. This is what's going on. So what has happened in the last 180 years is a huge redesign of all the ecosystems. Marshlands, fields, village sites like this have been converted into economic development ideas set up for long-term sustainability, right, for the community. That's what it was for. It wasn't meant to kill all the Indians off to destroy the world and be super bad. But as we move forward, we have to reconcile with truth, we have to reconcile with community, and we have to reconcile with science. So monocropped is not always the best approach for long-term sustainability. Why? Because pathogens and different insects will go ahead and attack that one crop, as we've learned in Ireland. And then I'm sure there's some folks here with some Irish blood, just like me here. And they know that potato famine happened because it was a monocrop and you lacked biodiversity in those potato crops. So we here in California, and as a local native, I can tell you that those wildflowers that you like in spring, 99.9 of those have bulbs on them that are edible. And they need to be gathered and eaten. Even the flowers are edible. So this is a crop. These are foods. This is the food forest of the indigenous folks. And it had been redesigned into European food for long-term sustainability. But as we reconcile, we say, no, we have native bees, we have ecosystems, we like the ducks, we like the oaks, we like the biodiversity that comes with California's ecosystems, and it also contributes to the soil health of our farms. So how can we adjust from one system of totally taking over, but to actually maybe acculturate? Are there green spaces within these farmlands that can produce biodiversity and help with habitat restoration and allow for local natives to identify and work with specific keystone species for foods, fibers, and medicines? Can we do that? This is not 1850 anymore, and it's not necessary to kill me today in order for your generations to live. We have now found out that I can live here on this city with you, and you will be fine and I will be fine, and we don't have to kill me. And that's okay, because this is 2025. So now what I'm saying is We've never even had an agenda out to eliminate other folks, but we've always had the agenda to take care of our ecosystems, to burn as our cultural burns, to do the burning that we've had as a real strong relationship to the water we have. So when we are looking at good water health, good healthy water, we're also looking like how can we utilize fire to bring water into its health. So a lot of times the state of California has put some issues on farmers, especially rice farmers for burning, but we do cultural burning. They give us the green light for burning. Why can't we culturally burn with you on your farms? If they're restricting you, can we work together? Can we do some burning with you on your private land and allow some of these techniques and knowledge of cultural burning shared within these areas that help what? Some rice areas, but also help some areas that we need to take care of tule, cattail, and a lot of other plants that are native to us, but they need to be tended to. And they've been saying, don't tend to it, don't touch it. And we're like, no, you have to touch it a lot. You have to touch the plants. It's like me telling you we're going to conserve rice by never touching rice. It's impossible. Or we're going to conserve and really take care of these almond trees by not touching the almonds. That's not how it works. It is the touching. You need to do a lot of tending. And so same thing with traditional ecological knowledge. It's not about setting up an oak tree and just standing there. It's about gathering, burning under that oak tree, grabbing the DNA of those acorns and seeing where are they best placed. We also have an abundant understanding of how to adapt to these changes. So when we're going into acorn granaries and trying to do acorns and you have oak trees, why can't we say that you're not only just growing almonds, but you're growing acorns? And that crop is really valuable to us. That's a protein. And we all know how easy it is to work with proteins, especially if it's in a powder form. And so as we work together, what I'm hoping up for this partnership is that we focus on fire, we focus on water, and we focus on land, and we focus on community stewardship on these spaces. So if we actually say, okay, we're going to have lots of farming, but there's a lot of areas that you don't want willow to be invasive. You do not want to have the cattail to become invasive. You don't want your, maybe you have dogbane, maybe you have milkweed. These things that are really important, they have symbiotic relationships with different critters within the ecosystems. These are the specialist stuff where you're like, oh, I would like to bring a tribal TEK practitioner on to assess the biodiversity on this land and how we could secure that, because it actually helps. Having biodiversity helps every ecosystem, even a farmland, to have different sets of bees, different sets of moths. You have your nighttime life, right? Everybody knows. Have you gone out at night in the springtime? What comes alive? Bats coming out, grabbing those mosquitoes. You have those nocturnal things going on, the nocturnal birds. You have all kinds of, crickets and frogs, and you have a huge nightlife going on. And then, the moths are really out at night, and then the daytime comes on and it turns into butterflies and bees and, different types of flies. And then you have everyone coming out, different types of birds eating those. So those are kind of how we would like to teach the community to look at this ecosystems as a nighttime. They like the nightlife, they like to boogie, they like the disco. We know that song. So there's a nightlife and then there's the day life. So this outdoor education, this traditional ecological knowledge of how we can have place-based science and food forests, and also seed banking. One of the biggest things that we have is the biodiversity of the issues. When I'm working at California Open Lands, is that I do take care of vernal pools. I do take care of a lot of these open spaces, a lot of these large conservation areas, many miles, and doing restoration. And we really need to have a lot of seeds, native seeds, banked back into the ground. So a lot of these ecosystems that are native within these farmlands, you're actually holding seed banks. I could use those clover flowers. I can use those poppy flowers seeds. I can use all those seeds. Those seeds are valuable and they can be gathered and then dispersed somewhere else. And then there's 2 seed banks after that. The one that you have on your property and the one that we have maybe on conservation land. Maybe we have on other private property where it's like they can't do ag, they can't grow corn, they can't grow anything. But you know what you can grow? Native seeds to be seed banked back into areas. Why? Biodiversity. What is your biodiversity goal? What could you have possibly in the state of California that would motivate you to biodiversity? Could it be that you would get paid for a 30 by 30 program? So my thing is here is to open the minds of all of y'all to work together in partnership, and maybe we can go into 30 by 30 agreements. 30 by 30 is a huge biodiversity goals that's set for the state, but also pays you for the increase of biodiversity within your property. So these types of opportunities are still economic development, but also hand in hand create what we said at the very beginning, what we want for our children. We want our children to experience love, abundance of love, an abundance amount of peace. We don't want them to have conflict and terror. It's our jobs to keep them in peace. Love, peace, health. We want them to be healthy. We want safe, healthy foods for them. We want them to be able to have security in their meals all the time, whether it's native foods or traditional foods from Europe or however it works. We still want them to eat well. And then, of course, we want them to be prosperous. Maybe they won't have wealth. Maybe wealth is not the goal at the end of the day anyway. We just want them to be prosperous. Be prosperous. Have as much as you want and be as happy as you can possibly be. And if I want that for your children and you want that for my children, then we're on the same page. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Can we get another bird call though?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, let's do the bird call. So my favorite one, I have a little thing. So there's the hummingbird that's more like, that's a little hard to do on the microphone. But the other one is like, the hawk.
Thanks.